Hey, what's up? Dave with Brazos Barbell. So this week I'm going to go over some of my bench pressing and talk a little bit about what I think is really improving it, and talk a lot about why I'm choosing a lot of my exercises and some of the coach and client relationship stuff, and really just how it comes into program design. So right now, and probably if you've followed my channel much at all, you've probably seen that most of my success, most of my progress has come off of my squat and my deadlift, while my bench press really takes the back burner. And I think that's pretty common with powerlifters in general. And it's not that I don't like bench pressing, but as far as how I'm built with long arms and all that, it's definitely been more challenging of a lift for me. So a lot of what I try to do with it over the years has been some variations, and I've had to learn a lot of technique, and it's definitely increased my bench press a good amount to where I've consistently bench pressed over 400 for probably the last 2 years or so, but it hasn't gone very far above that. So this year is obviously a big year for me. I have the IPF Worlds in June and then Raw Nationals, and I just can't be a low 400-pound bencher and really expect for my success to continue and not to lose a whole lot of ground to some of these really strong guys that I'm competing against. So I'm trying out some new stuff, and honestly, I think that the main thing will be that I'm trying out things that I've kind of been maybe afraid to do because they break the mold a little bit of what powerlifters and specificity and all of that. So but in my mind, I really think what I'm going to do is working. So I've reduced my competition bench press. So instead of doing 4 times a week of competition bench press, I'm just going down to twice a week. So that the single that I work up to here today is 390 pounds, this is just my second week of this progression, and actually moves pretty well. So it wasn't a whole lot harder than what the last warm up at 370 pounds was. And I think that's a big step in the right direction. That's kind of a load that during peaking blocks I'm good at hitting, but outside of that, maybe not so much. But what we'll see here is a lot of really, really light 3-count benching. So these are probably pretty short with the 3 counts, but anyway, a long pause bench is the main variation that I'm including in this program on my competition days. And the main reason I'm doing this is that I think this really adds it helps train the sinking touch bench press. So people who do a sinking touch, the rhythm, the pattern is kind of is something that needs to be trained, and the long pause actually helps me commit to it. So in the past, I've done other variations. I do tempo variations or soft touch and those kind of things, just as training tools to get stronger. But sometimes when I do those, and actually hindsight, I think this may be one of the reasons that sometimes my progress is best around peaking times, is that I take out variations and I just do the regular competition lift, and it shows up really quickly. A lot of times I credit that to me peaking, but sometimes, and maybe hindsight now, I'm saying that the variations have messed with my rhythm a little bit. So I'm doing these 3 counts because it helps me commit to the sink, and it just makes my bench feel a whole lot better, and the lighter work allows me to get in a whole lot of volume. So I think I did 6 sets of 5 with a 3-count pause here at 315, and they all felt really good. The other thing that I'm moving into is I actually am still doing 4 upper body sessions per week, or 4 pressing sessions per week. But on my 2 non-competition days, I'm using a new variation that I haven't used before. I'm just using what I'm calling an incline dead press. So we'll get to that here in a second. But the main accessory work that I'm focusing on right now as far as isolation stuff is going to be tricep work. So I'm including some heavier dips, some loaded dips that I've done in the past and really, really enjoyed. And then another variation, kind of a skull crusher that we'll get to. But a lot of the choices that I'm making are basically just choices of exercises that I've really liked. So, and this goes back years to before I was even doing powerlifting. Dips were one of my, and heavy dips was kind of my main movement before I really started committing to bench press. So I'm going back to some things that I really feel like I have a high level of buy-in to. So this is a 300-pound incline dead press that is extremely challenging. I started at 275 pounds on my first week, and I actually just got 315 on my most recent session. But I'm doing one session where I do 3 sets of 5, and the other session I do 1 set of 5 following that top single. And I'm really enjoying this variation. It's obviously extremely challenging, but I think it complements what I'm doing with my lighter sinking touch. With obviously this does not allow me to use any of my body to get it going at all, and I'm extremely bad at it. So when I'm thinking about variations and how to improve and how to make lifters stronger, a lot of it is training things that they're bad at. But I've mentioned before, emphasizing things that we're good at is just as important as training the weaknesses. So in this block design, I think I'm getting a pretty good variation of both of those things, where on the competition lift, I'm being able to actually train my rhythm and train my pattern and actually bench press, where I'm using these other tools like the dips and these incline dead presses to address some of the things that I think I need work, like my front delts or my triceps, or in this case, just training that little bottom portion of the lift that in essence I'm skipping with the sinking touch. And I'm really enjoying it, which I think is maybe the overarching principle of really this whole program design for me right now, is that because I've changed some of my bench pressing and some of the way that I'm structuring my training, I personally believe that it's going to work really well for me. Obviously, that remains to be seen, but right now I'm going into my bench press sessions and my training in general, excited to see what happens, and I'm kind of expecting to have good days. And that's something that I think all lifters need to try to find in their training. So obviously, there's thought put into what variations I'm using. There's reasons that I'm choosing these exercises, but one of the major reasons that I'm choosing them is because I think they'll work. I think they'll help. And that gives me a lot of drive to go in and actually invest myself in every workout. So one of the major problems that lifters have, especially if we're choosing exercises that they're bad at, if you really hate something, there may not be a good drive, a good motivation for you to try hard at it every session. And if you don't want to do it, then it can really add to some anxiety in your training and really make it to where whatever planned progression, it could be perfect. The exercise selection could be perfect. We could be doing good mornings to increase the lifter's back, or whatever exercise that just is probably the perfect exercise for that lifter. If they hate it and they're just not able to do it the way that they should be able to do it, then there's no way that will be an effective tool in good programming. So if you don't like an exercise, if it hurts you, if there's just something that you really would rather be taken out of a program, or something that you really would enjoy in your program that would add to the value overall, these are things that we can definitely do in order to make you stronger. And I think just because you enjoy something can be a very, very good tool that should be worth at least noting when we're coming up with exercise design. It doesn't all just need to be the big three and then whatever sexy exercise or the non-sexy exercises that people think are most necessary. So even this variation is kind of a skull crusher. It's been new. It saves my elbows, but it's something that I'm really enjoying right now, and I have motivation to try hard at. So hopefully that's helpful. I really think people should have some fun when they're lifting. It doesn't just need to be a grind all the time. So subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.